So I'd like to start off by asking you a very personal question. Now you're worried, right? How much sleep did you get last night? I know that Richard loves his polls. I've seen one in evidence this morning, but we at Concilio Health conducted our very own poll of frontline NHS staff back in November. And what we found was that over 2/3 of the people on that call had slept less than 6 hours the previous night. We didn't dare ask how much less. Now, allow me to ask you another question. How many people can survive on less than 6 hours sleep without showing any impairment, expressed as a percentage and rounded to a whole number? Well, unfortunately, the answer is 0. Now, I have a suspicion that there will be at least some of you on this call who are labouring under the misapprehension that you are different, that maybe you feel that you are able to behave as if you're one of this ultra rare breed of what's called genetic short sleepers. So that's a very small proportion of the population who is able to get by on less than 3 or 4 hours sleep without showing any evidence of compromise. So I'm going to burst your bubble now and tell you that the odds of that being the case are similar to the odds of you being struck by lightning. So why all the fuss about sleep? Why am I here to focus on sleep this morning? Well, our greatest asset is not our money or our time, it's our health, particularly the health of our brain. And what do you think has the biggest impact on your executive decision making, your mental agility, your cognitive flexibility, your working memory, your emotional intelligence, your communication skills? It's sleep. A study in the peer-reviewed journal Nature a few years ago showed that when people sleep less than 5 or 6 hours a night, their cognitive performance the next day is at or around the drink driving limit. So we need to wake up. That's the brain you're bringing to work if you're not prioritizing sleep. And just suppose you're next in line for the COVID vaccine. You will mount a 2-fold higher antibody response, at least a 2-fold higher antibody response, if you're well slept the night before. But it's not just at the individual level that sleep has implications, because poor sleep has impacts across whole organisations, which we see only too clearly when we go in and run our workplace engagement and wellbeing diagnostic, which often shows that sleep is having an impact not just on the individual well-being of a person within that organisation, but also on the overall levels of dynamic engagement, how connected people feel to the role that they do in that organisation, and their emotional engagement, how connected they feel to that whole organisation, which sits really well with the results from that first question in the poll. And a paper in the Academic Journal of Management a few years ago showed that sleep-deprived people leaders, managers in organisations, have teams that are more stressed because underslept bosses cast shadows on their teams. And unfortunately, tired human brains make mistakes. So history is littered with human tragedy after human tragedy, which has been caused in some part by fatigue. I'm thinking of Chernobyl, 5 Mile Island, the Exxon Valdez disaster, the Clapham rail crash, and the list goes on. And I've lost count of the number of corporates that we've worked with where the mental health message seems to be that it's okay not to be okay. Well, no, it's not. Not when the ways of working in that organisation effectively force people to burn the candle at both ends, where there's a culture of macho bravado around being able to get by on little sleep. we need to get away from caffeine and denial and basically wake up. And my sleep manifesto this morning, the crux of what I want to say is that we need to realize that sleep deprivation is having an impact across the UK. The economic impact of poor sleep in organizations is a little less than 2% of our GDP. And so I would suggest that what we need is to stop us sleepwalking into this physical and mental health and well-being and performance and productivity crisis. We need a sleep strategy. We need a UK sleep strategy for business, because sleep truly is the best physiological venture capital injection for you and your organization.
You know, somebody who has got into a habit of, let's say, sleeping, let's say 5 hours a night or something like that, how do you actually break that habit in your experience? Where do you start?
The way that we start with organizations is to just create an awareness of the many ways that sleep is impacting how people feel about work. We've got a diagnostic that actually shows the number of people who are at the threshold for poor mental health in any organization, and starts to show the impact that sleep is having. But time and again, we see that sleep isn't just impacting people at an individual level, how they feel, it's impacting the performance of the organization. And that's the reason to go in. But at an individual level, I'd say there's probably 3 really simple things that everybody can do. The first is to actually understand that sleep is your best productivity tool. And actually start to value it. It's interesting, the comments that Francesca made. I think we have grown up with this sort of sense that to prioritize sleep is almost a bit slothful. You know, we know that babies and children need it because they're growing, they're still developing. But actually, as adults, there's so many more things that we could be doing. And, you know, but effectively, they all chip away at our sleep. And so I think just giving sleep the attention and the priority and the space that it deserves. The other thing is just to be super boring with your going to bed and getting up times. So the more consistent you can make your bedtime and wake time, the better your sleep efficiency. So in other words, you will sleep deeper, better, you will get the right sort of architecture of the night's sleep. So just be consistent, put an alarm on your phone. And the last thing is the whole issue of blue light. So we've got some photoreceptor cells at the back of our eyes that send light messages to the sleep area in the brain, the area that produces melatonin, which is our sleepy hormone. And the problem is, within the visible light spectrum, we've got all the wavelengths of light from the shortwave blue to red, but these photoreceptors, they are only sensitive to blue light. And blue light suppresses that melatonin release that we need to get in the evenings for a good night's sleep. And so many of us need to be on our LED screens, laptops, iPads, whatever, phones in the evening. So if you have to do that, looking at ways to block the blue light that's emitted. So downloading some free software, putting night shift on your phone, getting some amber glasses. But those 3 things, avoiding blue light, prioritizing sleep, and trying to keep a pretty predictable sleep-wake routine will help you to get better sleep.